Hello and welcome to Amá CONVERSA. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
Doing very, very well. I am so excited to have Senhor Professor Diniz Borges here from Fresno State on Amá CONVERSA. Another amazing, legendary professor de Português on Amá CONVERSA. I mean, how lucky am I? How lucky am I?
I don't know how lucky. I don't know how
And
lucky you are or
and we're
unlucky to have two.
coordinating today.
I know color-wise, and we did not speak.
We
Let
did
that be
not
known.
speak. When I saw Singer Denise, I was like, what? We're both wearing pink? Okay, I like
Yeah.
this very much. So it's fantastic. I had the pleasure of speaking to Senhor de Silva recently, which is one of your great friends. So can you let me know, because I never asked you this, can you let me know how you guys know each other?
We met because we were both Portuguese language teachers. José Luis had been teaching for a while when I began, because teaching was a second career for me. I did
Oh, wow.
Portuguese radio first and other things. But I had been involved in the Portuguese-American community. I knew who José Luis was, but when I began teaching, him and I, had quite a few conversations, and he helped me out in some things, and we've basically had a very, very strong friendship for the last now about 30 years.
Wow, 30
Yeah,
years of friendship, very collaborative and
correct.
very
Yeah.
about, helping each other. And I love that. I seriously love the camaraderie and I love the unity, the teamwork. And honestly, there needs to be more Senhor de Salvage and Senhor Diniz Borges in the
Well,
world.
I don't know about that, but we respect each other immensely. I know that I respect him. I know he respects me,
Yes.
and we kind of have the same teaching philosophy, which is putting students first.
See, that's amazing. That's very, very true because there's nothing worse than having a teacher that doesn't care to be there. I mean, I've
Right.
seen it, I've experienced it. It's
Sure.
horrible. It's a horrible feeling. You almost feel like an abandoned child that somebody doesn't want. It's like, well, why are you here then? Why are you here with us? I don't understand. But thankfully, Senhor de Silva and you are such great, great educators and have done so much for our community. And, we need to appreciate you guys a lot more from what I believe. And so I'm going to start this off by just giving you the floor a little bit, but I want to know, where are you from? I know you're from Terceira, so I'll let you talk a little bit about your childhood in Terceira and where exactly you're from. And then I'll let you talk about, when did you come to the United States? Because I know you were young, you were like around 10. So I'll let you talk a little bit about that experience. I'm sure that was pretty crazy and you still can remember it because you were 10, right?
Oh yes, I remember vividly. Yeah, so I was 10. I was born in Terceira, as you said, Marisa, and I was born in Praia da Vitória, which now is a city. At that time, it was a Vila da Praia da Vitória.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was before it was a city,
So it
and
was small back then, huh?
it still is, but it was smaller.
Oh my gosh.
And it's I lived in an area that a road that now is called Rua dos Pastos. At that time, was called Canada dos Pastos, so
Oh,
it
wow.
changed as well. Um, my mother is from a neighboring freguesia, which is Cabo da Praia, which belongs to the same municipality. And my maternal grandparents were both immigrants to the United States. So my grandfather came over in 1910. He
Oh,
was
wow.
17 years old, almost 18. And
Oh my
my
God.
grandmother came a few years later than he, and she was 15 when she came over
Oh, wow.
with a sister. My grandfather came by himself. Anyway, so they met here. My grandfather was single for 9 years, married for 9 years, and at the end of 18 years in America, he decided to go back to
Oh my gosh.
the islands.
Mm.
He had my grandmother at the time had five girls.
Oh my gosh. Five girls.
Two boys had died, and wait, there's more.
Oh,
Three others were born
in the Azores.
Portugal, in the
Oh,
Azores,
wow.
in Cabo de Praia. And my grandfather had eight daughters. Okay, he had actually my grandmother
Wow.
had 11 children, but three of the boys died either
Oh my
at
God.
birth or after. And he kept on going, hoping that one of the boys would survive, but it seems like only the girls survived. And
Oh
so
my
my
God.
mom, who's still alive, she's in her late 80s. She's one of there's only two left of the eight. One of eight
Wow.
daughters, My
Wow.
grandfather had this. I like talking more about my grandfather than myself because I thought he was an amazing man. He was my best friend.
Oh,
And when he was, I'll tell you the story. I was 4 years old. My mother and my father put me in what was called then at the time Escola Paga, or it was a lady who was actually a nurse by
oh, wow.
trade who taught students like a private school in her
Oh,
house. She had a small group, 6 or 7, and
yes.
I went in when I was 4 years old because school in the Azores did not start until I was 7. But
Oh my
dad,
gosh.
my dad wanted me to go, sort of kind of like a preschool, and
That is
so
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 awesome.
I went to school starting when I was 4, and
Oh, so cute.
that's how I got, I think, my love for reading. And so
Yes.
one day I was actually with my grandfather. So just to, I think you can figure this out, and your listeners as well. Imagine, 8 daughters,
Yeah.
6 of them married at the time, 6 son-in-laws.
Oh,
Some
wow.
of them with 2, 3, 4 kids. Imagine all
Big
that
family.
on a Sunday dinner at Val's house.
Oh my God. That
Uh,
sounds like fun, actually. That sounds like fun.
well, it is, but it can be loud. I mean, two Portuguese together can be loud, but
Imagine that.
with 20 plus, an interesting situation. And
Yes.
so I like to read. I was about 5 at the time. I had been already in that school for almost a year. And I took a book, and like a children's book, and I
Yeah.
went outside, and I remembered as I was turning the corner that my grandfather used to go over there, and I said, "Oh, he's going to really give me a chewing or something." I was afraid because he
Oh,
was a very powerful man.
oh wow.
And he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything to me. I didn't say anything. I'm reading my book, and he's there in his corner smoking a
That's
pipe.
interesting.
He used to smoke a pipe,
Oh my God.
and he was smoking his pipe. He would go out. He wanted some peace, not just because he didn't want to smoke inside, but because he wanted some peace. It was a different world, and people used to smoke inside the houses, at that time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so he turned to me and he said, the first time he ever probably spoke to me in a long conversation, he said, "Do you like to read?" And I said, "I
Yes.
do." And he said, I said, "I do." And he said, "I don't know how to read. I don't know how to read or write." And
Oh,
and I knew that because my mom had said, and he said, "Why do you like to read?" And I said, "Because I like stories." And he said, "Well, if you like stories, Vol doesn't know how to read or write, but I can give you some stories." And so from then on until we immigrated until he died, actually, because he died about 6 months before we immigrated,
oh
until I was
wow.
9 and a half, for about almost 4 years, he would tell me stories just about every Sunday about his life in America. So when I came to America, I kind of felt I knew a little bit about America because
Yeah.
my grandfather had told me all of these stories on my mom's side. My father's side
Oh
had
wow.
never immigrated. So we came over when I was 10. My mom and dad. My father was 38, my mom 33. I was 10, and my brother 3. There's only 2 of us, and we came to the Tulare area. We had 2 aunts that were here. So see, my 5 of my aunts were born in the United States, so they were U.S. citizens. So
Oh,
when they got
that's right.
married,
Before they went back to the Azores. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they were born here, so U.S. citizens. So when they got married there, they could come, or they could come
Yeah.
single, and so
Yeah.
they would come and bring their husbands along with them, and a couple of them with children. And so we had 2 aunts here in the United States. 2 of those 5 decided had immigrated already, and so we came over, and I went to elementary school, and
And
it
you
was
already knew how to read in Portuguese. So
oh
how
yeah,
was it reading in English then when you came
yeah,
over here?
I had finished the 4th grade in Portugal.
Wow.
So when I came over, which at that time was the required education, but anyway,
Yeah.
it was tough to learn English because in the beginning we didn't have bilingual education. This was 1968, and so it
Mm.
was either either
Sink or
swink or you
swim. Yeah.
swam,
Sink or swim.
and I swam a little bit, but by the end of I started school in November, and by the end of the school year, actually end of April, I felt pretty comfortable. I actually knew
Oh,
most of the math students were learning. I knew a little bit of the world history, quite a bit actually, more than with the students I
wow.
felt knew here because we did a lot of history there. But
Yes.
of course, English was tough. But it was a school where I had lots of immigrants like me. So there
Oh,
were lots
perfect.
of other Portuguese kids who had just immigrated.
Oh,
I
that's
was there that
perfect.
one year. Yeah, it was really good.
So
And then I
you've
went to other
always
schools.
been in that Tulare area then,
Yeah. Yeah,
since the beginning.
Tulare, Kings County. I went to Hanford. My dad moved. My dad would move every single year if he found a dairy that would pay him another $25 a month. And one time I said, Dad, it's really
$25
hard.
a month, huh? That was the time? Oh
At
my
that time,
God.
when your salary was only $425 was a good amount of money.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I
Wow.
recall telling him when I was like in the fifth grade, Dad, we have to move again. I have to make new friends again.
Oh,
He
poor
said,
baby.
I came to America to make money.
Yes, 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 yes. You can make friends anywhere, but I came to America to make money, son. Oh my goodness. But you know what? That is so sweet how your grandfather saw you with the book and then he talked to you about it. He asked you if you knew how to read. You said yes. And then he opened up to you when you were a little tiny boy and said, well, I don't know how to read and write, but I'll be able to tell you whatever stories you want. So when you came to America, you kind of already, he was basically prepping you. So like you said, he passed away 6 months before you moved. So I feel like he, the whole time was prepping you for something that he thought may happen for you in the future. So I feel like that was really very sweet that he did that. And he told you all the stories about America. And when you came here, you didn't feel alone. You didn't feel so different. You felt maybe this was a little bit familiar for you. Maybe you have heard it before. So I think that's very sweet that he
Well,
did
some
that
of the things, yeah. Yeah.
for some of the
Some of
things.
the things, yes. Yeah, because it had been, a long time ago. He went back
Yeah.
to Portugal in 1928.
Oh,
People, I
wow.
mean, he had a Model T, and he had
Oh,
but
wow.
mostly he still had was, of course, horse and buggy and everything else.
But he
And I
had a
have here,
Model T at some point, huh?
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my,
I have a wonderful picture that has that here in my office that has his ranch here in Tulare County, where
oh,
I know
wow.
where it's located, where he had his, he had his cows at that time. I believe he had about 90 cows, which was quite a few, and had horses, and it was just really and he sold everything. He sold everything 6 months before the Depression,
Oh my
and
God.
he
I
he
feel
used to
like
talk
this
about that.
man was intuitive. Like I felt like
Well,
he knew
yeah.
what was going to happen and he just rolled with it.
He actually told me one time he didn't, but then he had heard, and he wasn't very versed in America, but he said, everybody tells me I sold at the right time.
Oh yeah.
Had I stayed there, I would have lost everything. I probably would have regained it within years, like most people did, but
Yeah.
he wouldn't have been able to come. My grandfather worked as a ranch hand in the Azores. Okay. And when
Oh
he
wow.
left, he started working at the age of 5 for this
Oh
man.
my goodness.
Yeah. 5 years old.
Poor,
And
poor
he,
little
he
guy. I can't even imagine that working on a ranch at 5 years
Yeah, we
old.
can't. Yeah, it's a different
No.
world. He was working with his father first, and then his father went to work somewhere else, and he stayed, with this ranch, and he
Oh
worked there
wow.
until he left at the age of 17. At the age of 17, he went to tell his boss. He was already kind of in charge of a few things,
Hmm.
and he went to tell his boss he was coming to America.
Oh wow.
And he said, but if things don't go right, this was one of the first stories he told me. If things don't go right, I want you to promise me that I can have my old job back here in Terceira. And
Smart man.
the gentleman had been in Brazil, and he said to my grandfather, things will go okay. You're going to do well. You're going to
Aw.
do okay. But I'll tell you what,
That's cute.
I'm not married, as you know, and I don't have anyone to leave this to. So if you ever come back, I won't give it to you, but I'll sell you my house.
Okay.
I'll sell you all the cows, and I'll sell you all the land that I have.
Really?
And my grandfather, 18 years later, went back to Terceira, and the man was good in his word. He sold my
No
grandfather
way.
182 acres and the house
No
and
way.
the cattle. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See
Yeah.
how important it is to make these beautiful connections and be genuine and be hardworking and be honest. You just never know what can happen to you. You literally never know what can happen to you.
That's for
So
sure.
that is pretty cool. So whatever happened to all the animals, the land, the house, whatever happened to what he bought from the man?
Well, my grandfather continued with he had a very successful, agricultural operation in the Azores. He had lots of different, at one time he had 7 or 8 men working with him. He was, as he got older, he started selling things off. I remember him
He was
when
a
I was
businessman.
younger, as a businessman. But when he would already tell me stories, he was already semi-retired. He had
Yeah.
reduced his dairy to very little amount of cows and just enough.
Uh-huh.
He only had 2 people working for him, and he was pretty much he had a heart issue, and so he was pretty much just retired when I know he died at the age of 77.
Oh, wow.
And
So he had a long life, 77.
yeah,
That's pretty good.
He was, but he eventually a lot of the land has been sold because all my aunts have passed, other than my mom and one other. But most of them, only one, well, two of them, I should say. One came back, but only two stayed in the Azores. The other six have immigrated.
Oh, wow. And did they all come to the Tulare area as well?
No. Four of them. It came to the Tulare area. One of them came here and went back, and then one of them to the East Coast.
That's pretty cool. That is
but
pretty
the
cool.
the majority here to the Tulare area. Yeah.
I think it's interesting how me and you, we both have the dairy background. So my mom grew up on a dairy in San Jose. Her father and my grandfather's parents, so my great-grandparents, I never got to meet them, but my great-grandparents were the owners of this dairy. So when my mom came about, my grandfather was basically the guy in charge with his brothers. And she was raised on a dairy when San Jose was all orchards and dairies back in the day. And so I think it's pretty cool that we both have that root. We have that dairy root, but I also have family members that were fishermen as well. So I come from a family with both. And then on my father's side, we have a completely different scenario where they're not really agriculture nor ocean people. They were more business people as well. So I'm kind of like a smorgasbord of a mixture of things, which I like that. It kind of gives me, it's kind of a well-rounded type of a thing. But I always think it's pretty cool, like when we come from the dairy, like people would never know or guess that I came from a family that owned a dairy. But yes, I do, and I love it. I love the country, I love the ocean, and I love the city. I see the beauty in all of it. And another thing I wanted to talk about was I wanted to say thank you again, Singer Diniz, for having me on 2 of your programs, one last year and one this year. Last year's was a very, very interesting discussion about California, the Fado in California, and Amália Rodrigues, my favorite Fadista, and this show is actually named after her, Amá CONVERSA. So that was in October 2020. And can you let the audience know if they wanted to go back and check out that discussion, where can they find it? And basically, let me give you all a little bit of a summary. It was me, David Garcia, Angela Brito, Crystal Menge, Lizandra George Costa Jr., and Singer Diniz Borges. And I think that was it, right? There was 7 of us on there.
And Vivian, did you say Vivian?
And Vivian
Santos, yeah.
And anybody else?
That's it.
Yes. So it was the biggest Zoom I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, probably a lot of people. I've since learned that Zoom, we have to do it with less people, but I want it to be inclusive and, include as many voices as possible. We're actually going to try to continue to do those conversations coming up in the next few months, and so certainly we want to count on you. And I think these conversations need to happen. They need to happen, whether it be about Fado or about folklore or about whatever. Our community is changing a lot. And it must change in order to accommodate younger people. And so if people want to, we have a Fresno State YouTube channel, so people can just go to YouTube. It's Fresno State PBBI, and if they go to YouTube and do that, they'll see all of those archives, and they'll see that one with your guys' picture on there that says, Fado and Fadistas in California, and then we have that. Besides that, I can announce here in your program that shortly, hopefully in about 3 to 4 weeks, about 4 weeks or so, all of these conversations will also be archived at the Henry Madden Library. That's the Fresno State Library. We're going to have a page dedicated to the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute. And besides being archived, the important thing, besides the audio and the video, is that they will also be transcribed. And that's very important.
Oh my goodness.
For researchers, because people who are doing masters and PhDs, they normally won't take an hour to listen to a, to a
so they want to read it.
They just want to read it and scan for what they're looking for, when they're researching, because they have so much material to go by. And so, and then they'll listen to whatever they're wanting to. So all of our conversations, all of our panels will be archived as part of the Oral History Project. And that is a good thing because there'll be video, audio, and transcription for future generations. We're hoping that 100 years from now, people want to
Wow,
talk
that
about
is
the Portuguese in
exciting.
California. You know, they want to know, hey, were there Fadistas in California 100 years ago? Well, yeah, it'll be archived forever at the library.
I did not know this. I did not know
yeah.
this. This is so cool. Well, I am even more excited for that. So you never know if there could be somebody, I mean, 20, 30 years down the line who comes across this, is doing a project, doing a research project on Fado, and I get a phone call 30 years later wanting to talk about the discussion. I mean, that would just be crazy. That would just be crazy.
Sure. You never know. You never know because things change and people sometimes want to do research on different maybe they're doing something on Fado and Fado outside of Portugal and then they find that we have this tradition in California. I think that's one of the things that we need to do more, which is archive what we do.
I agree with you because then it's there forever. It's there forever. It's literally in the library, in the cloud. You can access it at any time. It's always available. This is amazing. Amazing news.
And it's a private thing. I mean, it's private. It's a public thing. So the issue is, YouTube and Zooms and Facebooks and everything. These are all private companies. So who knows what YouTube is going to look like 20 years from now or 30 years from now? Who knows if they're going to be able to archive the stuff that I have on there now? They may have a different policy, their cloud may be different. At the library, it's owned by the California State University system, so it's never going anywhere. Never.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
going to stay there for eternity, basically.
That is a very secure thing, that's for sure.
Yeah, we have things that were been collected from the Japanese American community from World War II, and they're all there still. So.
You know what? I honestly, I don't even have words for this right now because I feel this is above me. Like, do I even deserve this? Like, this is so cool.
Of course you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And while
you're the next generation, and we need to give you guys more voice.
Thank you so much. That's very, very sweet. And I think it was a very important discussion because, like you said, so many people don't even know that there's Fado in California or the United States. For example, I talk to a lot of people overseas. I talk to a lot of people from Portugal, from the Azores all the time. And they tell me all the time, oh, e nem sequer sabia tinha Fado in America. I'm like, are you kidding me here? Like, wait, what did you just say? So, there's a lot of things that people in Portugal and the Azores don't necessarily know about us, about our communities here. They think it's just like faraway land that they know nothing about. But it's like we are more connected and more in tune than maybe some would think or expect. So I think that discussion was very important, and I'm so excited to do more discussions. And another awesome program that I had the honor to be on was your radio program on 1600 AM multicultural station. We did the Portuguese-American Hour recently, and that was very cool. We talked about my single, and we just talked a little bit about my Fado in general. And I just want to say thank you again for having me on that program. Can you talk a little bit about that program?
Sure, and it was my pleasure to have you on. And you're one of the best guests I have because you actually have a great conversation. You can talk. And that's great because there's a lot of when those of us who've been doing radio for a while, the worst thing that can happen is when you ask someone a question and they say yes, and I said no. And I said, no, that wasn't a yes or no question. There was, give me a little bit more than that. Years ago,
more, right?
I do, as you know, I did also Portuguese television for 29 years with Channel 49 in Fresno, which unfortunately closed.
29 years.
Wow. It was a Catholic station, and I did a half-hour show on television called Os Portugueses no Vale. And one time, a friend of mine said, there's this bullfighter that's here from Portugal. This was about 21, 22 years ago. There's this bullfighter that's here from Portugal for the bullfights in Tulare for one of the, I think, Our Lady of Fatima or one of the bullfights.
Wow.
And it would be good for you to have him on your television show. And I said, sure. Hey, that'd be great. I don't know anything about bullfights. I mean, I'm from Terceira, but I'm not.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not a knowledgeable person on bullfights.
Just like Silva's from San Miguel, and he doesn't have a San Miguel accent. So that's
right. Yeah. So we have. So I said, yeah, let's bring him on. And I I had, a list of questions, and I would say, what happens when the bull does this? And he would say, it does this. And I'd say, okay, can you elaborate a little bit more? Because, by the end of like the 18th minute, I had gone through like 28 questions, and he had answered either
Oh,
yes or no,
man.
or maybe. So you're a great guest. But
Thanks
so
for
the
that.
Portuguese-American Hour began, it's going to be 2 years now. And so I've been in radio since I was 17 years old. And
That's
Portuguese
crazy.
radio.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I was 17 when I started, when I substituted for a friend of mine who had a Portuguese radio program. He went to the Azores and he asked me to substitute him for 4 weeks. I liked it. When he came back, he said, you should do your own then. And I started my own radio program. I was just turned 18.
Oh my goodness. You were not
was,
even legal yet and you had your own radio show.
Well, I was legal. It was called Voz do Imigrante Português.
I was legal. No, you were not 18 yet. That's what I meant.
I was legal in both. I had just turned 18 when I started my own. Anyway,
cool.
so radio was part of my life, but then of course I went to teach and didn't do radio for a very long time. I did just a television program that I started actually about the same time I started teaching. But then I went to so the multicultural radio was a Spanish-only radio station, and they came to and they were changing formats because there's a lot of competition in Spanish radio stations.
Of course.
And they were actually one of the original Spanish radio stations. KGST started in the Fresno area in the 1960s when there were hardly any Spanish radio stations around. Wow. And so he everybody said the gentleman who started it was kind of crazy to start a Spanish radio station. Now he owns hundreds of them. But anyway,
smart man.
Yeah, very smart. And he so they approached me because they were changing to a multicultural format in English, but about the community. See, Fresno is a lot of people don't know this. Fresno is the 10th most diverse city in the United States of America.
Whoa. Mind blown right now.
A lot of people think it's just, a strong Hispanic community or strong this or strong.
I've never been to Fresno ever. I have to go there.
Fresno is a very, very multicultural city.
I've been to like neighboring towns, but never like in Fresno.
Yeah, it's it's got its dilemmas, but anyway, it's the 10th most multicultural city in the United States right now.
Oh my gosh, that's so good to know.
Over 500,000 people, and so they decided to do a multicultural format where they would have different cultures on. We started our program once a week on Wednesdays from 4 to 5, and then about 3 weeks after we started, the manager talked me into doing a daily program. So it's Monday through Friday, 4 to 5. I only
daily.
Well, I only do 3 shows. I'll tell everybody. I'm always honest with everybody. I only do 3 shows. 2 of them are repeats. So shows like yours, when I have a guest, I repeat them. Like if I run them on Monday, I'll repeat them on a Wednesday. But we do 3 fresh live shows every week, and so, when I talked to her, she says the show has to be in English. And I said, listen, my specialty is Portuguese, but, oh, no, you can do this in English and everything. It was my first time doing an English, although I had been talking about this. I told friends of mine who are in Portuguese radio, guys, you need to switch to English because it reaches a wider audience. So if you're a Portuguese radio station, like we have them here, I'm not going to name them, but we have them. Why not have an hour a day? And, if you have 10 hours in Portuguese, fine. Have 2 hours in English.
Oh my gosh. I agree with this. I've never heard
2 hours in English with we only play Portuguese music. We play your music and we only play 3 songs because it's more of a talk format.
Yes.
But the 3 songs that we play, and we play all kinds, but we try to be artists from the community so people can know the artists from the community. Or we are also kind of heavy on sometimes artists in the Azores who are singing in English, who are very good.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a gentleman, a young man by the name of Cristóvão in Terceira, who's an excellent folk singer. I mean, he's just excellent. He writes writes and reads and performs all of his stuff in English.
I need to check him out.
Yeah, check him out. Cristóvão, and another one called Felix the First. Felix, Felix the First, João Felix. His grandfather was a great poet and a good friend of mine. Anyway, so there's a lot of things. Sarah Cruz, also in Ponte Delgada or San Miguel, is also singing in English, doing a great job. So we're trying to do that. We try to do the Portuguese Americans and the ones there who are singing in English, although most of our music is in Portuguese. But, so the program started. I use it. I only do it because it's a way to promote the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, which we're doing at Fresno State. And
Yes.
it's a way to promote the community in a language other than Portuguese, because unfortunately, more and more Portuguese Americans don't speak Portuguese. That's just the way life is. You know, my
Yes.
sons speak Portuguese, but my grandchildren don't. And so that's the
Yeah.
way it goes. I mean, you know, I always tell people who are in the Portuguese press, according to the US Census, and we're going to find out things this year from the 2021 census, but according to the 2010 census, so from 11 years ago,
Mhm.
there are 350,000 people in California who are of Portuguese background.
Okay.
According to the same census, only 31,000 say they still speak some Portuguese at home.
Whoa.
Okay, so
Whoa.
if you're doing a show in
What is the percent of
Portuguese,
that? I need to Google this right now. What is the percent?
about 10%.
Oh my God.
About
Seriously?
10, less than 10%
10%?
actually. 10% would be 35,000, so it's 31, so it's about 9%.
Well, I feel pretty accomplished to know the language then. If only 10% of us know it.
That's true.
Crazy. That's
That's true, because
you
the
were
older
hitting me with some
immigrants,
facts today that I had
well,
no
the
clue.
older immigrants are dying, and those were the ones who were
Yeah.
native speakers, you know, and so more and more. And some people, when they say speak some Portuguese at home, that doesn't mean that they're fluent.
No.
They may just
Yeah.
speak a few words here and there. So there are less and less, unfortunately, people speaking Portuguese than there were 45 or 50 years ago. And you see that the festas. I
Yes.
mean, I recall when I got here, when I was, actually, I even wrote a piece about that. One of the things when I was a teenager, 13, 14, one of the things that kind of, was interesting is we would go to a Portuguese festa. We'd been here 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And all of my father's generation were speaking Portuguese, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And then I went to all the kids my age, and they were all speaking English. And all of and these were kids who were like me, who had been here, 3, 4, 5 years, but they switched to English just like that,
Oh my goodness.
And so it was, we would go, the young people would get together, teenagers, 13,
And all
14,
speaking in English together.
and, I wouldn't say all, but, I would say 80% of them, 80 to 85%, even though they'd only been here 4 or 5 years. It always said, I would say, you guys speak Portuguese? Yeah, so we feel better in English now, blah, blah. So, I mean, I have kids, friends of mine who were, or acquaintances, I should say, that were here with me in high school, in elementary, at 10th grade. I mean, in 6th grade.
And they don't really speak Portuguese anymore at all.
Yeah, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And they came maybe a little bit younger. Some of them had come when they were 3 or 4. And they don't speak Portuguese any longer. They lost the language.
That is a shame. That is really a shame. That's why it's so good that you do your classes. I know that you were doing online classes for quite some time. Is that still available for people who want to learn Portuguese with you? Is that still available?
Well, the online classes were through the College of the Sequoias, but they're going back to in-person instruction. So I'm a firm believer that the community colleges should do their courses online. That way it would open up to students, because when they were online, I had students from
all
Pleasanton over. All over. And I did a culture class about the Azores for 4 weeks, and it was a community, and it was people from Hawaii, from East Coast, from different parts. So online is a way to reach more and more people. Yes. But indeed, Marisa, says people begin to, if people don't speak Portuguese at home, then the language is going to get lost. Even you can never learn it only in school. School can add to it, basically.
Yeah. Well, for me, my father always spoke Portuguese with us at home, to the point that when he would speak English, I wouldn't understand what he was saying, and I would just tell him, "Pai, just speak to me in Portuguese, because I don't know what you're trying to tell me." So in the beginning, it was like that. And my mom would speak to us in English all the time, always. And then my mother's mother, only Portuguese as well. She was from the Azores. So every time we went to my grandma's house, she only spoke Portuguese to us. But interesting enough, me and my sibling, my brother, were the only ones out of the whole 7 grandchildren that she had that actually went to Portuguese school and learned Portuguese that way. And so I have 3 cousins from one of my mom's sisters that they wanted to learn Portuguese and they wanted to go to school. At least I remember vividly, at least the younger one, she wanted to go to school with my brother and I. And her mom straight up said, which my mom to this day never forgets this, she always reminds me of this. My mom's sister, to that statement, going to school and to learn Portuguese, and her husband's from the Azores too. She said that her kids did not need to learn Portuguese because they are born in America, they're going to live in America, and they don't need to know Portuguese. So that happened. And to the point that her older son, moved on and had kids of his own. And he was the only one that actually spoke Portuguese because he was the oldest grandchild. So he was with my grandmother first. And so my grandmother would speak with him. And so his other two siblings, they didn't know Portuguese, but he did because he spent more time with my grandma. But
Right.
None of them went to school, and they didn't really hear too much Portuguese in the home. So when they would go to grandma's house, or when they would go to their other grandma's house, which was here in Hilmar, they didn't understand anything that their family was saying. They would turn to me and say, "Hey, what's my grandma saying?" Or "What's grandma saying?" Every single time, because they just didn't weren't exposed to that because their parents thought that it was not important. And then the other sister had two kids, and they actually did speak a little bit more Portuguese at home. So one of my cousins is actually able to speak conversational, minimal conversation, but he did learn a little bit because of his parents were talking with him, and his father is also from the Azores too. But it all goes back to I think the parents. So if the parents say,
Sure.
like, yes, I'm going to speak Portuguese at home, or yes, they're going to go to school, or no, they don't need Portuguese, that definitely sets the tone. That sets the tone 100%. Because to this day, the ones that wanted to learn, still, they're in their 30s, they still don't know it. They still have no idea.
Sure.
So,
And the older you get, the harder it is to learn a language.
yes, 100%.
The best thing is for kids to learn it when they're actually
Little.
we in America we teach language too late. Most kids don't take languages until they go to high school, or in some cases junior high, and they should be learning Portuguese or Spanish or whatever language. Other than English, they should be learning it right from kindergarten, first grade. Actually, there in Hilmar, they have an excellent program at the elementary, the immersion program.
Which I'm so excited about, by the way. I mean, my daughter, she already knows a little bit Portuguese. Thankfully for my husband and my father and my in-laws, they always talk to her in Portuguese. Me, I talk to her in English mostly, but there is some Portuguese in there. So I'm so excited that Hilmar has this amazing program, because you best believe that my daughter is going to Portuguese class one way or another, even if it has to be me teaching her, which that's pretty funny. But even if even have come to that, I would do it. But she's definitely going to learn for sure.
Yeah, Hilmar has an excellent program, the best in the state.
Well, Senor Diniz, I can literally talk to you forever and ever.
I know.
This has been so interesting to me. Whenever you want to come back to Amá CONVERSA, as portas estão sempre abertas. But I just want to say thank you again for being on Amá CONVERSA. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And is there anything else that you would like to say to the listeners?
No, just thank you for the opportunity. Continue doing this. And it's wonderful to see young people in the Portuguese-American community taking on leadership roles. We need more of that. People my age can fill in whenever we need to, but I believe that we need to have more and more young people involved in the community. The community will I don't think the community is ever going to die. I'm not, one of those fatalistic people. I believe the community will last, there's a metamorphosis that will happen and things will change. It's changed with all of the ethnic groups in the United States. We're the same way. Things will be different 25 years from now than they are, as they are today, they were 25 or 30 years from now, or ago, I should say. But the important thing is to have, so kudos to you and to everyone that is in your age group that is taking on a leadership role, not just, and as I tell those in my generation that are involved in the Portuguese community, when you invite the young people, don't invite them just to go clean the dishes. Ooh. Invite them actually to do a leadership position. Invite them to run, some aspect of the organization, the festa, or whatever it might be. Because that's the worst thing that we can do is invite young people and even teenagers, but even older than teenagers in their 20s and 30s to get involved in something, and then we give them the broom and say, this is what you're going to do for the next
6 my God, so many times. I know exactly.
Let's not do that anymore. It's a different community.
And let's work on getting that 10% from 10 years ago. Let's boost that up. Let me see that go to 20 to 30% of us knowing how to speak Portuguese.
That would be great.
Let's see if we could do that. That'd be great.
That's right. Thank you
Well,
so much.
Thank you again. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.